You son of bitch. It seems you won't understand how powerful we are until we teach you a lesson. Kate erupted into anger as she yelled, "Take him away!" As soon as she spoke, a dozen Hammond family guards charged forward. Each of them exuded murderous intent as they approached with sharp gazes. The audacity! Before Dustin could act, Cornelius had transformed into a ghostly shadow and shot across the heads of the crowd. With a graceful backflip, he landed confidently in front of the guards. A loud explosion was heard as he launched a palm strike from a distance. A powerful divine aura surged like a wave, knocking over the guards to the ground. The lingering force became a fierce gust of wind, forcing the rest of the Hammonds to stagger backward. They couldn't keep their eyes open. As the wind subsided, all their guards were lying on the ground with severe injuries. They coughed up blood. What? Everyone was shocked at Cornelius' appearance. Nobody expected an unimposing, frail old man to have such formidable skills. It was frightening that he could defeat numerous elite guards with just one move. "Who are you?" Kate shrunk back involuntarily, scared. "I'm nobody worth mentioning," Cornelius spat out coldly. Although he appeared thin, like a stick, nobody dared look down on him then. He had manifested true energy externally. In other words, the old man was a formidable divine. Level martial artist. "Old man, I don't care who you are. Get lost immediately. You have no right to meddle in the affairs of the Hammonds," Kate yelled. She was not only the patriarch's daughter, she was also Tyler's fiancée. Her standing in the family was second to no one. "I'm not interested in the affairs of your family. But if you dare lay a hand on Cerise, I will break your necks," Cornelius warned coldly. "How dare you?" Kate glared at him. "Do you know who you're talking to? Do you know who my fiancé is? You must be seeking death to be making a scene here. My life is worthless since I'm old. If I die, so be it. But it'll be worth it if I can exchange my life for yours before I die," Cornelius said seriously. Kate's eyelids twitched as she took several steps back. She put more distance between herself and Cornelius. She was afraid of facing someone so fearless and crazy. "Old man, you're not young anymore. Is it worth risking your life like this?" Just then, Dylan suddenly stepped forward. He had an arrogant expression, and his sharp gaze held disdain. As a divine-level martial artist and a high-ranking commander of the Dark Panther Cavalry, he had confidence in his abilities. The weak martial artists in the martial world were powerless against him. "Dylan, that old man has some skills. You need to be careful," Kate warned. "Don't worry, Kate. Dealing with an old guy like him who's already one step away from his grave is easy for me," Dylan said with pride. "Very well, let's cripple him first. Then we'll deal with Destin," Kate said with a sinister smile. "Old man, I'll give you a chance to kneel and beg for mercy from me. Then you might still be able to keep your pathetic life. Otherwise, once I make a move, there won't be a trace of you left," Dylan threatened. "Bring it on, brat," Cornelius gestured with his hand and remained impassive. "Go to hell," Dylan said in anger. With a light jump, he shot forward like an arrow. "Take my tiger fist." As he got closer, Dylan whipped around and threw a heavy punch at Cornelius. Just as his punch was about to make contact, Cornelius raised his hand and caught his fist. A large bang sounded from the impact. The divine aura that Dylan wrapped around his punch broke on the spot. It was so fragile as if it was made of paper. What? Dylan was shocked. He hadn't expected Cornelius to grab his aura-wrapped punch so easily. "Is this all you've got?" Cornelius looked at him in contempt with a slight twist. A cracking sound was heard, and Dylan's wrist was broken. "Ah!" His painful shriek was cut short by a kick from Cornelius. Dylan was sent flying across the room and slammed onto the wall. He bled from both his nose and mouth. The Hammonds looked at the scene in shock. Dylan's martial skills were acknowledged to be the best out of them all. He even surpassed the leader of the Shadow Guards. No one in the Hammond household could match him. Seeing such an expert being defeated by such a skinny old man was shocking. All it took was just a single move. Dylan was completely defenseless against him. Where did that bastard Dustin hire such an expert? Trent frowned. His expression darkened with each passing moment. He thought he could get the recipe for immortal while he forced Hector off his position as head of the family. Who would have thought such an expert would appear and ruin all his plans? Dylan, are you all right? Jacob's face fell as he rushed to help Dylan up. Dad, the old geezer's something else. He isn't an ordinary grandmother. Dylan clenched his jaws as he looked dreadful. He knew their powers were on different levels. He was no match for his opponent. I can tell. Dustin's probably spent a lot to hire such an expert. Jacob nodded. Someone was always better out there, and they had underestimated their opponent. None of them had expected such an outcome. Is there anyone else who wishes to challenge me? Cornelius scanned the crowd. The Hammonds looked at each other awkwardly and remained silent. Who would dare to step out when even Dylan had been defeated? Well, if no one has anything to say, we'll leave now. Dustin took Natasha's hand and walked out boldly. Ruth followed after them and helped Hector along. Now that both parties were at opposite ends, things would only get ugly if they stayed any longer. We're not done yet, Dustin. Mark my words. I'll make you regret your actions. Kate could not hold it in when she saw them about to leave. She was just one step away from success, but Dustin ruined everything. She was livid. Is that so? Dustin stopped in his tracks and turned around. We don't know yet who will regret their actions. Forcing Mr. Hammond away from his position as head of the family will be the greatest mistake of your life. You bastards will ruin the entire Hammond family. Nonsense! The Hammond family will reach greater heights without Hector. Kate shouted. How ignorant! Dustin chuckled. Do you think you'll succeed once you marry into the Grant family? You lot are nothing more than tools in Tyler's eyes. It'll be game over for you once he no longer has use of you. Huh, I say you're just jealous. Kate looked at him disdainfully. Once I marry Tyler and become his wife, I'll make all of you bow before me. We'll wait and see then. Dustin couldn't be bothered to waste any more time on her. Taking Natasha's hand in his, they left without another word. As they left, those who stayed back heard him say, "They're playing with fire and digging their graves. Poor things. They don't even know that death's already knocking on their doors." Late that night in Zephyr Lodge, Dustin told Hector, "Mr. Hammond, your wounds have been treated. You'll be fine after a few days of rest." After dressing up the wounds, Dustin gave Hector a hemaplenish to boost his health. Fortunately, the 3 stabs hadn't hit any vital organs. Otherwise, it would have been a pain to treat. I appreciate your help tonight, Dustin. Thank you, Hector smiled at him, looking pleased with Dustin. Somehow, he had already taken Dustin as the best candidate for his son-in-law. You're welcome. It's not a big deal at all. Dustin smiled as he asked, Mr. Hammond, I'm just curious. You certainly can take charge of the situation and put them in their place. Why did you have to stab yourself 3 times? Hector was still in command of the Shadow Guards. Nobody would have been able to retaliate if he had taken more drastic means to control the situation. Then he wouldn't have to end up the way he did now, powerless and poor. It's clear that things played out the way they did today because someone had been interfering from the sidelines. I'm afraid none of them would be happy if I wielded my power over them. It might even cause the entire family to fall apart. Hector sighed before he continued. The Hammond family has had it tough in recent years. We haven't progressed much and barely survived the mess with the Dark Lord. The family is in such a depressing situation. We're all waiting for the right opportunity to start over. We cannot afford to put any more strain on it. I don't mind suffering a little if the family remains peaceful and stable. Your attitude is truly inspiring, Mr. Hammond. Unfortunately, your sacrifice for the family might be in vain. Dustin shook his head. Exactly, Dad. You shouldn't have backed down this time, Natasha said seriously.